is what you're fighting for. Your faith lies right behind that door. Don't look no more. Hope is what you're fighting for.
Shalom, peace and blessings for all those that have tuned in to watch this class in the middle of Feast of Tabernacles. We are now on the 4th day of Tabernacles. I am Priest Rashid, leading today's class on the faith of the nations. And assisting me with this class on my right is apprentice priest Yehezekiel, and magically appearing to my left, apprentice priest Yasiala. So today we're continuing in this series of faith. Powerful understanding that's been given on faith. As we've talked about before, faith is not what we know in the modern day lexicon. This is a Hebrew word that means something entirely different. It doesn't mean blind belief or having strong conviction. 5th day, Salakia, we're in the 5th day of Tabernacles. So talking about faith, we're not talking about blind belief. and firm conviction in. As we've been going over these classes the last few days, faith is a Hebrew word, and it only means one thing, or culminates to one thing, and that's the proof and evidence of Abba Yahweh's existence. Before we begin today's class, as we always do, if you've been blessed and benefiting from the lessons at the House of Wisdom, if you've been growing, please support the priesthood. We have the calendars here. This is the 2024 calendar, 2024-25 calendar. But this is not the calendrical study guide. It has some information in it, but we also have the calendrical study guide, which is this one here. As you can see, it's much thicker, but it has a lot of information in it. It's essentially it's a reference book. You can keep this for the rest of your days, and the information is relevant. It's never going to change. Also, we have, well, let me not go there yet. Also, you can procure the tithes. Those that are, if you want to support the priesthood, get the tithes. We procure the flour, the fruit yayan. I don't have any examples here, but those that have tuned in regularly, we have the bread and the wine that you can purchase. And also, lastly, this book here, it was written and authored by the sent man, Malak Kahan, Chief Priest Banyala, on faith. This was published, if I remember correctly, in 2004. So this information isn't new. It's been around, and that you're actually getting more additional information, but this is the first printing of the book. They found a cache of it, and it's first come, first serve. So those that been blessed by this message and have been enlightened and illuminated, get the book. Like I said, it's in limited supply. You can go to Shekaniah.com to purchase this book. And again, there is a limited supply. Messianic Faith by Chief Priest Banyala. All right, so now, as we dive more into the faith, we're going to talk about the faith of the nations. And if you would, Apprentice Priest Hezekiah, if you could hold Hebrews 11:1. As we're going to do with all these classes, we're going to go to the very definition of faith. We're not going to go to the Merriam-Webster's dictionary on what faith is. We're going straight to the scriptures on what faith is. And when you have it, Hezekiah, Apprentice Priest Hezekiah, let's begin reading faith here.
Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen.
All right, so now, as we heard in previous classes, faith is a special gift. And read it one more time. Read it from the top. Hebrews 11:1. Say, now faith.
Now faith is
faith. So faith, this special gift that we're talking about, is
the substance of things hoped for.
The substance of what we're talking about is the tangible material of the thing that you have an earnest expectation for. So you go to Abba Yahweh and you say, Abba, I need X, Y, and Z so I can advance the covenant. I need, whatever it may be, you fill in the blank. And you have an earnest expectation that Abba Yahweh is going to fulfill that hope. So when you get the substance, that material, that thing that you were hoping for, that you had an earnest expectation for, what happens?
The evidence of things not seen.
You now have the evidence of the Most High Abba Yahweh that you can't see. So I'm going to use an extreme example. I'm going to use one, a financial example. If I say, Abba Yahweh, we need, $1 million so we can advance the covenant in such and such way. And I'm praying for that. I'm believing for that. And out of the blue, we have a company send us a check saying, here's $1 million so you can procure this or that for what you need for your ministry. Now I have the proof and evidence. The substance is that check. It says $1 million on it. I have the proof and evidence that Abba Yahweh exists. So that was the earnest expectation that I was hoping for. That's the hope. That's the desire. We needed this money to advance the covenant. So if you would, Apprentice Priest Hezekiah, let's move down to verse 31. So we're doing the faith of the nations, and this might sound odd to some people, to some Israelites, when we say the faith of the nations, because a lot in Israel feel like that salvation is only for Israel and that it doesn't incorporate the other nations. But we see here what we're about to read in Hebrews. We know that Hebrews was a letter written to the Hebrew constituent. He's speaking to Hebrews about this faith. And as we've been going over the last few days and we're talking about the champions of faith, we come down to a name, to a particular individual who is not of Israel, who is of the nations, who is not of the stock of Jacob. They're not bloodline descendants of Jacob. When you have it, Apprentice Priest, let's read Hebrews 11 and verse 31.
By faith, the harlot Rahab perished not when them that believe not, with them that believe not, when she had received the spies with peace.
All right. So here we see Rahab. Rahab is a Canaanite woman. Again, she's not of the stock of Jacob. She's not a bloodline descendant of Jacob. And so you have to ask yourself, when you read Hebrews, they got someone in the nation, of the nations, written in a Hebrew letter. Now, somebody say, you know, there's different monikers for this particular chapter, you know, and I say this, you know, loosely. These people were recorded for having, you know, being the champions of faith, showing what true faith is. And we have someone of the nations being used as an example of that faith. If you would, Apprentice Priest Yasiala, pull up Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and verse 13, and we'll read the 14.
Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear Yahweh and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man.
All right, so we hear the whole matter, the whole duty of man is to fear Yahweh and to keep his commandments. To love him, to reverence him, to obey him, to do what he has called us to do. This is his planet. This doesn't include just the Israelite. Yahweh expects all nations to worship him. As we said in many of classes, you can go to our catalog of classes, and it's the nations in the end that are going to bring their tithes to Israel to worship Yahweh when we get to the great Sabbath rest. It's not going to be, if you don't do it, you know, there's going to be repercussions and consequences. But this is the whole duty of all man, to keep his commandment. And read the next verse.
For Abba shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil.
So this isn't just Israel. This is everybody. As we talked about in the divisions of the underworld, maybe even the angels and demons, we see that, you know, everything you're doing is recorded in heaven, whether you're righteous or unrighteous. So this includes the nations, this includes Israel. So we want to paint that picture. So now we're going to talk about the faith of the nations, in this case, the faith of Rahab. And so we're going to begin, we're going to lay a little bit of context here for this particular example. If you would, Apprentice Priest Yasiel, let's pull up Joshua chapter 1 and hold verse 1. And actually, when you have it, we'll begin reading.
Now after the death of Moses, the servant of the Most High, it came to pass that the Most High spake unto Joshua, the son of Nun, Moses' minister, saying.
All right. So here, in the timeline of things, Moses has passed away. And for those that are familiar with the story, you know, Moses wasn't allowed to enter into the promised land. Because of his disobedience, that judgment was laid. He couldn't enter into the promised land. But he was allowed to see it. And so I want you to hold in mind, this was the promised land that they were entering into, something that was promised to them. But Moses has passed away, and now Joshua, the son of Nun, is going to now be the head person over Israel. Let's go to verse 2.
Moses, my servant, is dead. Now therefore arise, go over this Jordan, thou and all this people, unto the land which I do give to them, even to the children of Israel.
Oh, so like I was saying, this is the promise. This thing was promised to the children of Israel, this land, Canaan, that they're about to enter into. Continue reading.
Every place that the sole of your foot shall tread upon, that have I given unto you, as I said unto Moses.
So as he said unto Moses, he's telling these children now. So the people that are about to possess the land, this promised land, are the children of the ones that could come over into the promised land. For those of you who remember the story, because of their recidivism and their lack of faith, we'll put it that way, they couldn't enter into the promised land. And so now it's the children that are about to enter into the promised land, and this is being repeated to them. This has been promised to you, as I said unto Moses. We'll continue to read it.
From the wilderness and this Lebanon, even unto the great river, the river of Euphrates, all the land of the Hittites, and unto the great sea, toward the going down of the sun, shall be your coast. There shall not any man be able to stand before thee all the days of thy life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with thee. I will not fail thee, nor forsake thee.
All right? So here, Abiyah was doubling down. He said, this land is yours, and I'm always going to be with you. No one is going to be able to stand against you, and he was not going to forsake them. So they're about to enter the promise. All these years that, they heard this, that we're going to receive the inheritance, that we're going to move into the promised land, that moment is upon them. So we want to give some context here because, as we talked about in other classes, we're going to see the different degrees of faith in this story with Rahab. But we'll continue reading.
Joshua chapter 1, verse 6. Be strong and of good courage, for unto this people shalt thou divide for an inheritance land, which I swear unto their fathers to give them.
All right. So here, for all the 12 tribes, they were going to have their portion. Orders were going to be set for each tribe, the land that was promised. So if you would, Prince Preciasiawa, let's go to chapter 2. And we're going to hold Joshua chapter 2, and we'll hold. All right? And so let's begin reading. We'll begin reading.
And Joshua, the son of Nun, sent out of Shittim 2 men to spy secretly, saying, Go view the land, even Jericho. And they went, and came into an harlot's house named Rahab, and lodged there.
All right. So in this scripture here, is covering, it's real succinct. There's a lot happening in this scripture. We have to kind of flesh it out a little bit here. So Joshua sent out 2 spies to survey the land, to look it over, see, what it was about. And so these 2 spies, when they went into Jericho, as we had spoken in previous classes, we know that Jericho is the heavy pagan. It actually translates to the moon. They were moon worshipers. And the shape of the city was circular, like a moon, reminiscent of the city of Adam. It had the same resemblance in that respect. So they were going into this pagan city to spy it out. Jericho had a reputation in that land. For those that don't know about Jericho, they had high walls, very high walls. And at that time, that was a formidable defense against other nations because you had to break through this stone to penetrate inside the city. And so this city was hard to conquer because you had to break through the walls in order to get in. And the walls, different archaeology, they say different things. But the walls were extremely high. And so they were sent to look at, to survey this area. And they came into a harlot's house. And so you read this and you be like, oh, wow, why is just go to a harlot's house? Is that what we're doing? You know, so, but in this case, you know, Rahab had an inn. Now, you know, she's a harlot, so there was probably a brothel, but it was a place where you could drink. In these times, in ancient times, when you went to a brothel, it was a place you could get, right? So these wicked men, they're sleeping with these whores. I'll put it like that. They're sleeping with these harlots, prostitutes, but they give up secrets. They give up, you know, things that they wouldn't normally tell people because they're drinking. You know, what do we say in the class last time? You're drunk. You know, you're seeing two things. And so they get a little loose with the lips. They give out information. So actually, it's actually a good place to get information. But yet and still, they went to the harlot house named Rahab and they lodged there. And let's continue to the next verse.
And it was told to the king of Jericho, saying, behold, there came men in hither tonight of the children of Israel to search out the country. And the king of Jericho sent unto Rahab, saying, bring forth the men that are come to thee, which are entered into thine house, for they be come to search out all of the country.
All right, and so we see here, if you look at other accounts, if you look at Jasher, we're not going to go there, Jasher 88, even in the account of Josephus, these men were made out. They know that they're different. You know, they're in Jericho, this group of people, they say, hey, something right about it. So their cover was blown. They were made. And so the king had sent out soldiers to apprehend these spies. And so they went to Rahab and they were, hey, you know, the king would say, hey, where are these spies? Where are they at? Let's read the next verse.
Verse 4. And the woman took the two men and hid them and said thus, there came men unto me, but I wist not whence they are.
All right, so Rahab, you know, he used some deception. He knew exactly where they were. She hid them, but she told her soldiers, like, hey, yeah, they came through, but they left, and I don't know where they went. Continue reading.
And it came to pass about the time of the shutting of the gate, when it was dark, that the men went out. Whither the men went, I would not. Pursue after them quickly, for ye shall overtake them. She had brought them up to the roof of the house, and hid them with the stalks of flax, which she had laid in order upon the roof. And the men pursued after them the way to Jordan unto the fords. As soon as they which pursued after them, they were gone out, they shut the gate.
All right, so these soldiers that were, you know, commissioned to find the spies, they left the city because they were thinking that the spies had left the city. And so they shut the gate. And we'll continue reading.
Joshua 2, verse 8. And before they were laid down, she came up unto them upon the roof, and she said unto the men, I know that the Most High have given you the land.
All right, let's stop here. So this is a very, very important. We're talking about faith. You know that there's very important. We have hope. We have the substance. We have evidence. So listen to what Rahab is saying here, remembering she's a Canaanite woman. She's living in the promised land. And she says, I know the Most High have given you the land. How does she know this? Let's continue reading.
And that your terror is fallen upon us, and that all the inhabitants of the land faint because of you. For we have heard how the Most High dried up the water of the Red Sea for you.
All right? So here, in these times, you read the scriptures in the Old Testament, Abba Yahweh's reputation. These other countries knew that Abba Yahweh was real, that he was mighty, and that he did exploit. And so she's saying that we heard about how you parted the Red Sea and the children of Israel crossed over. She's heard about the and she's heard about the plague and the things that were happening in Egypt. Now, read that next part. You read when he came out of Egypt? I'll read it. We have heard how the Most High dried up the water of the Red Sea for you when you came out of Egypt. We got to pause here because sometimes we talk about some of these places and these locations, and we just kind of go over. When we think about Egypt, Egypt was a super. It was the most powerful country in the world. You know, the most cosmopolitan. It was at the epicenter of all trade, everything. I mean, it was just the place to be. And to get a report that Abba Yahweh destroyed it on the sake of the children of Israel to deliver them was something that sent shockwaves through the land. So they had an understanding. Some were even there who may have left Egypt because of what was going on there to settle in some of these other cities in Canaan. Rahab maybe being one of them, going there to visit. She knew about this. She says, I know that the Most High has given you the land because at this point in time, Israel, nothing could stand in Israel's way. And they're about to do more conquering. You can see that. Now, I want to bring out a point, a nice fact. So, you know, we're going to get into it, but bringing it out here. The Jericho, like I said, had tall walls. Rahab's house, we're going to see later in the scripture, on this one. So she can see out. And so when you look at Jericho, Jericho is right on the Jordan. Children of Israel on the side of Jordan. We're talking about a host of 1 million plus people settling across the river. So she can see that. He knows it's coming. He's like, they're rolling through these cities and these countries, and I know that your power is about to take over the land. Let's continue reading.
Verse 10, top of verse 10. We have heard now how the Most High dried up the waters, the Red Sea for you, when ye came out of Egypt, and what ye did unto the 2 kings of Amorites that were on the other side of Jordan, Sihon and Og, whom ye utterly destroyed.
So the Amorites were on the side of the river that Israel is currently on. So they destroyed those kings. Jericho. We'll continue.
And as soon as we had heard these things, our hearts did melt.
So, you know, you got to look at this closely. So if I heard something about someone and, you know, I didn't have no evidence, really knew, I was like, why wasn't my... To me, I was like, you're just telling me something. You're just speaking words. But, I don't know, this example comes to mind. You know, Mike Tyson back in the day, he said that brother would come down the street. He was knocking folks out, you know, before he became a professional boxer. So if you heard Mike Tyson is coming, you're going to be like, oh, wow, I can't do nothing. I might have to shoot that brother. You know what I'm saying? You know, but, crude example, but yet still, if you know of a person being who they are, then that's when your heart will melt. But if it's something fictitious, your heart ain't going to melt over it. So they knew that their time was up and that their eviction notice was about to be given. But we'll continue reading.
Neither did there remain any more courage in any man because of you. For the Most High your Abba, he is Abba in heaven above and in earth beneath.
So look at these declarative statements making. She has a certain level of faith. She's seen something, right? She knows of something. And so she knows that these spies that have come in, she's like, yeah, these ain't like the Jericho or men that are, you know, other men of these nations. You know, you could purely speculate. That's like, wait a minute, they got a border of blue on. You know, they look different. Maybe they're, you know, these brothers are Hebrew. And so she had a very, she had understanding about their power and how their power operates. So we'll go ahead and let's read verse 12.
If you don't mind about ad priest, you know. And in verse 10, man, like you just see she's listing all the evidence, all the works. You know, when we're talking about faith, that's like the big thing about faith. You need evidence, proof. And she's showing that, she knows about all of it.
Right. He said Mike Tyson is here. He at our doorstep, so she has the evidence. But that's on point. On point. What do we live off? Verse 12?
Verse 12. Mm-hmm. Now, therefore, I pray you, swear unto me by the Most High, as I have shown you kindness, that you will also show kindness unto my father's house, and give me a true token.
All right, so we got to take this apart. We got to dissect this. So Rahab already has a certain, as we talked about in other class, there's different degrees. Right? So there's some things that Rahab experienced or that she can see of, and she's convinced to a point that, yeah, this is the power of heaven and earth. Yahweh, your God is the power of heaven and earth. But she is asking, now she's asking of faith. She's dealing with this. Because Rahab, she could just yell and say, hey, king, they're here. They can kill them. But she's been persuaded. She knows about their power, and she's not going to do that. Because she knows that Jericho's time is, that they're going to take over the city. So she's making a pact with them. She's saying, look, if I show you kindness in hiding you, can you reciprocate and show me kindness? Now you got to look at it from the spies' viewpoint. They like, okay. Now, if she hadn't said all the things that she said in those prior scriptures, they probably would have drew their sword and killed her because their cover was blown. And they ain't trying to get killed before they really experience the promised land. But as she started to speak and say certain things, it's like, wait a minute, we probably can. She has hidden us. We saw the guards come in and they left. So they had a certain measure of faith in Rahab. So let's continue reading and see how this plays out.
Verse 13. And that ye will save alive my father and my mother and my brethren and my sisters and all that they have, and deliver our lives from death.
All right. So for the astute that are looking at this now, based on all that we covered, all the understanding we have about faith, here what we've seen in verse 12 and 13, right? Her concern is making it out of that city alive, her and her family. Doesn't want to die, right? And a part that we did script, she said, a true token. She said, give me a true token, true sign, that, that you will deliver my family, right? So let's continue reading. Let's see what the spies have to say.
Joshua 2, verse 14. And the men answered her, our life or yours. If ye utter not this our business, and it shall be. For the Most High hath given us the land, that we will deal kindly and truly with thee.
All right. Okay.
Verse 15. Then she let them down by a cord through the window, for her house was upon the town wall, and she dwelt upon the wall.
All right. So this is what I was saying earlier, that, they had to be let down by a rope out the window. Who were, essentially scaling the wall to get down, to get out of the city. So the exchange of faith here, the spy said, okay, we'll honor that. Once we get the land, we're going to deal kindly with you. We're not going to slay your family. And so let's get some more on this exchange of faith. And so what we're going over here, like I said, with this story, there's different layers of faith. Faith started right away because she said that she knows of certain events and certain things. And so by her saying that, the spies got faith in what she was saying. Because at that time, most of these other nations wasn't acknowledging Yahweh as being the God of heaven and earth. Like I said, she's living in a heavy pagan city. Jericho translates to the moon. They're heavy into moon worship. And so this resonated with the spies, and they allowed her to live, made the pact with her. Let's continue reading.
Joshua 2, verse 16. And she said unto them, Get you to the mountain, lest the pursuers meet you, and hide yourselves there 3 days until the pursuers return, and afterwards may ye go your way.
So listen to this, more information. She's telling them exactly where to go so they don't get caught, right? So now this cycle of faith, you can see it taking place between Rahab and the spy. But she said she wanted that. She wanted that highest degree of faith to show, like, you know, proof and evidence of the Most High that she needed to have. That was a true token that she wanted to have, and we're gonna see that as we continue reading. Read verse 17.
And the men said unto her, We will be blameless of this thine oath, which thou hast made us swear.
So they said they're going to keep their word. We're going to be blameless. But they had a couple of caveats or things that they want to put in this oath. Let's read verse 18.
Behold, when we come into the land, thou shalt bind this line of scarlet thread in the window which thou didst let us down by. And thou shalt bring thy father and thy mother and thy brethren and all of thy father's household home unto thee. And it shall be that whatsoever shall go out of the doors of thy house into the street, his blood shall be upon his head, and we will be guiltless. And whosoever shall be with thee in the house, his blood shall be on our head, if any hand be upon him.
All right, so here's a caveat. He's like, look, you can get your people, your mom, your dad, your sisters, brothers, and all those to be in the house. If they leave out of this house, we can't protect them. They're going to get slain. Because we read in the very first chapter, how it's like, lay it all to waste. Don't save anything. So, but he's saying, look, if you stay in your house, if you put this red cord above your door so we know which house it is, you know, what is that a type and shadow of? Something they just came out of when they were in the land of Egypt. They had to put Passover. He's essentially saying, we're going to pass over your house and you'll be delivered. So this is just another point in that the faith of the nations, this plan of salvation for all of mankind, doesn't just include Israel. We read in Exodus 12 that it was a mixed multitude that came out of Egypt. Stranger and a homeborn were under one law. And so the same thing is going on here. And so this is a microcosm of what the plan is now, you know, under this new covenant, just to put it out there, that this incorporates the nation. And we're seeing that here. But let's read it to the next verse. Verse 20.
And if thou utter this, our business, then we will be quit of thine oath, which thou hast made us swear.
Right, so he's saying, look, this oath is of none effect if you say anything to anybody about what we're talking about. We'll continue reading.
And she said, according unto your words, so be it.
So be it. He said, Aman. That's what Aman means, so be it. So they had this pact. There was a cycle and a reciprocation of faith exchange between her and the spies. And we'll let's finish that verse up.
And she sent them away, and they departed, and she bound the scarlet line in the window.
All right. So in the window, not on the doorpost, in the window was this cord. So children of Israel come and conquer the city. They know not to destroy this home. All right, let's continue reading.
Verse 22. And they went and came unto the mountain and abode there 3 days until the pursuers were returned. And the pursuers sought them throughout all the way, but found them not. So the two men returned and descended from the mountain and passed over. They came to Joshua the son of Nun and told him all the things that befell them. And they said unto Joshua, truly the Most High hath delivered into our hands all the land, for even all the inhabitants of the country do faint because of us.
All right? So the spies got the temperature check. They saw people in Jericho were shook. It wasn't Rahab that just saw the children of Israel and all their hosts on their doorstep. Other people saw it. And other people were aware of the power of might of Yahweh. So from there, apprentice priest Hezekiah, if you would, let's go to Joshua chapter 6. Yeah, start with verse 1.
Joshua chapter 6, verse 1. Now Jericho was straitly shut up because of the children of Israel. None went out, and none came in.
Right, so now once those spies were located in the city, they was like, wait a minute. As we said, they're on our doorstep. We'll continue.
Verse 2. And the Most High Abba said unto Joshua, see, I have given into thine hand Jericho, and the king thereof, and the mighty men of valor. And ye shall compass the city, all ye men of war, and go round about the city once, and shall thou do 6 days.
All right. So here, as we're about to get into it, like he said last class, he uses the foolish thing. And so this military campaign, what Abba Yahweh is laying out for Joshua to do to conquer this city is unorthodox. You know, like I said, Jericho and its walls, the way the walls were, they didn't have any siege engines, any battering ram to batter down the walls. But they still were shook because they knew that the children of Israel don't need that, you know. But let's see what happens. Let's see the other conditions of taking over the city.
Verse 4. And 7 priests shall bear before the ark 7 trumpets of ram's horns. And the 7th day ye shall compass the city 7 times, and the priests shall blow with the trumpets. And it shall come to pass, that when they make a long blast with the ram's horn, and when ye hear the sound of the trumpet, all the people shall shout with a great shout, and the wall of the city shall fall down flat, and the people shall ascend up every man straight before him.
So even in this example, I know this, we're talking about the faith of the nation. But we even can see that, you know, we was talking about faith to faith in the previous class. So here, Abba Yahweh is going to do another act. Tell him exactly what he wants. So he's telling Joshua, he has faith with him. Joshua has been obedient to what the Most High has been telling him to do. And he has a certain level of faith. Now Abba Yahweh is giving him instruction on how to defeat the city, and Joshua is about to carry it out. So even in this, what is about to take place at Jericho is not only going to build faith in Israel, I mean the nations, but in Israel as well. I just want to point that out, but we'll continue in verse 6.
And Joshua the son of Nun called the priests, and said unto them, take up the ark of the covenant, and let 7 priests bear 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark of the Most High Abba. And he said unto the people, pass on, and compass the city, and let him that is armed pass on before the ark of the Most High Abba. And it came to pass, when Joshua had spoken unto the people, that the 7 priests bearing the 7 trumpets of ram's horns passed on before the Most High Abba, and blew with the trumpets, and the ark of the covenant of the Most High Abba followed them. And the armed men went before the priests that blew with the trumpets, and the reward came after the ark, the priests going on and blowing with the trumpets. And Joshua had commanded the people, saying, ye shall not shout, nor make any noise with your voice, neither shall any word proceed out of your mouth, until the day I bid you shout. Then shall ye shout.
All right, so I'll read verse 11.
So the ark of the Most High Abba compassed the city, going about it once, and they came into the camp and lodged in the camp.
All right. So, as I mentioned, Rahab's house was on the wall. On the wall. The house was adjacent to the wall. So, she had a vantage point to where she could see these priests of the Ark of the Covenant and pass the city, whenever it got to her point. So this is something that they've never seen before. We know how the Levites were arrayed, you know, these priests, their garments, the Ark of the Covenant. So this was a completely different scene. They didn't make any noise. They just, and she could see this. Just wanted to make a note of that. So here you can see that her faith is being built up more. She hasn't quite got the evidence that she needs in her request to have that special token, but it's coming. We'll continue reading. What verse are you in now?
Joshua chapter 6, verse 12. And Joshua rose early in the morning, and the priests took up the ark of the Most High Abba. And 7 priests, bearing 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark of the Most High Abba, went on continually, and blew with trumpets. And the armed men went before them. But the reward came after the ark of the Most High Abba, the priests going on and blowing with the trumpets.
So you wondering why, like, why didn't they said that they verse 1 that they set up the city. So, why is anybody contesting the priest? They had armed men there just in case, but no one wanted to go out of the city. Their faith was in the walls of their city. It's like they're not going to break it. Our walls are going to protect them. But let's read the next one.
Verse 14. And the second day they compassed the city once and returned into the camp. So they did 6 days. And it came to pass on the 7th day that they rose early about the dawning of the day and compassed the city after the same manner 7 times. Only on that day they compassed the city 7 times. And it came to pass at the 7th time, when the priests blew with the trumpets, Joshua said unto the people, Shout, for the Most High Abba hath given you the city. And the city shall be accursed, even it and all that are therein, to the Most High Abba. Only Rahab the harlot shall live, she and all that are with her in her house, because she hid the messengers that we sent. And ye, in any wise, keep yourselves from the accursed thing, lest ye make yourselves accursed, when ye take of the accursed thing, and make the camp of Israel a curse, and trouble it.
All right, so I know this isn't part of the class, so to speak. This was the same thing that they told them to do in AI. Don't touch the accursed thing. And AI was nowhere near Jericho. Actually, it was just a small city that they should have overran with no problem. And so, just to point that out, but this AI came after Jericho. Just a note to point out. But read verse 19.
But all the silver and gold and vessels of brass and iron are consecrated unto the Most High Abba. They shall come into the treasury of the Most High Abba.
Those things, the silver, the gold, and the vessels of brass, iron, all that was going to be dedicated to Yahweh. At that time, they still had a mobile tabernacle. The tabernacle wasn't built yet. Solomon is not on the scene, but these things would be held in that mobile tabernacle. Let's read verse 20.
So the people shouted when the priests blew the trumpets. And it came to pass, when the people heard the sound of the trumpet, and the people shouted with a great shout, that the wall fell down flat, so that the people went up into the city, every man straight before him, and they took the city.
All right. So now we're at the point where, if we go back, her hope was that her whole family and that she wouldn't die. And part of that hope, that kindness would be shown to her. Now we're at the culmination of that. The evidence is now, we see the evidence in this, that they've destroyed the city, the walls of Canaan. And that's part of the substance. So if we take a look, it's like looking at a building being demolished. They put the TNT in there, boom, 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 and that building collapsed. That's the substance. That's the physical matter, and the representation of her deliverance that she was hoping that Abba Yahweh would do. So now, her faith, her hope, has matured to full-blown faith because she sees the substance. She has a substance and the evidence of the Most High. Now, these people were just shouting. They were just blowing horns. And so all of this is being witnessed. There's no rocks being thrown. There's no catapult, siege engines, or anything like that. The whole host of Israel began shouting, blowing their trumpet, and the walls just came tumbling down. Very powerful. I mean, sometimes, like I said, when you read these stories, you kind of gloss over it, but if you really just kind of meditate on what's being said, it's like, wow, that's, so she got that special token that she wanted. Let's continue reading. Let's see what happened.
Joshua chapter 6, verse 21. And they utterly destroyed all that was in the city, both man and woman, young and old, and ox, and sheep, and ass, with the edge of the sword. But Joshua had said unto the two men that had spied out the country, Go into the harlot's house, and bring out thence the woman, and all that she had, as ye sware unto her. And the young men that were spies went in, and brought out Rahab, and her father, and her mother, and her brethren, and all that she had. And they brought out all her kindred, and left them without the camp of Israel.
All right, so they kept their word, as righteous men would in Israel. They made an oath and they kept it. She didn't break her word. She didn't leave the house. She stayed within the house, and her whole family was saved. So the maturation of her faith all culminated at that one point. The thing that she was hoping for, her earnest expectation for Abba Yahweh to deliver her family and all that she had and to escape death, she got the evidence of that, in these verses. So this is the process of faith. And like I said, this is a microcosm. Nations cleave to Israel, right? Our faith, they see it, they have their faith and they cleave to us. And they're saved through Israel and not the other way around. So let's finish this out. Let's continue reading.
Verse 24. And they burnt the city with fire, and all that was therein, only the silver and the gold, and the vessels of brass and of iron, they put into the treasury of the house of the Most High Abba. And Joshua saved Rahab the harlot alive, and her father's household, and all that she had. And she dwelled in Israel even until this day, because she hid the messengers which Joshua sent to spy out Jericho. And Joshua adjured them at that time, saying, Cursed be the man before the Most High Abba, that raiseth up and buildeth the city Jericho. He shall lay the foundation thereof in his firstborn, and in his youngest son shall he set up the gates of it. So the Most High Abba was with Joshua, and his fame was noised throughout all the country.
All right? So here again, we saw different levels of faith in this account in our record. We saw faith between Rahab and the spies, and then we see faith between Rahab and, Abba Yahweh. She got that special token that she was desiring. She witnessed the the power and the glory of Abba Yahweh by seeing the wall fall. So this is one account with the faith of the nations with Rahab. We're going to take another look at another account. So this account here that we're looking at was obviously during the Sixth Covenant, the Mosaic Covenant. We're going to take now a look at another example in the New Testament. During the time of the Roman captivity, and so if you would, Yasiala, let's pull up Luke chapter 7 and verse 1.
Now when he had ended all his sayings in the audience of the people, he entered into Capernaum. And a certain centurion servant who was dear unto him was sick and ready to die.
Right. So now what we're looking at here, a centurion was an officer in the Roman army. So he had command. He was a leader. He had subordinates. And so this centurion who loved his servant was fatally ill. And so let's continue reading.
And when he had heard of Yahushua, he sent unto him the elders of the Jews, beseeching him that he would come and heal his servant.
All right, so here we have a similar example with him and Rahab. He knew that the Messiah could heal his servant. As Chief Priest brought out in his class yesterday, if the books could contain all that he was doing in Israel at that time, because he was trying to build up Israel's faith. To give some context of this story, being in this captivity, Israel was completely gone. That's the whole purpose on Yahushua coming back. We're in the 5th millennium. As the scriptures say in Isaiah, this great light has now arrived in Israel, and the Yahushua came to do it. He came to clean the priesthood. He came to consecrate the covenant of David, shed his blood for it. So he's repairing Israel. Israel is in a very bad position, kind of like how we are now. We're being brought back to our cultures and ways. But many miracles and different things Yahushua was performing at that time, and the centurion knew about it. But let's continue reading this. What else happened?
Luke 7, verse 4. When they came to the Messiah, they besought him instantly, saying that he was worthy for whom he should do this. For he loveth our nation, and he hath built us a synagogue.
All right? So here's another thing. We can use an example with us speaking to so-called African American, black folk. In the land of our captivity right now, do you think we would have made it without the help of some Caucasians, some white folk, right? We think about the Underground Railroad, people that were trying to escape slavery in the South to get to the North. These were white people that gave us the ability to escape death, right? So this is the same type of, it's akin to that. He loved Israel. He built them a place where they can assemble and helped out the nation with sincerity. So there was no con with it. There was no, he wasn't looking for anything out of it, but he did well by the Jews. And so Yahushua said, yeah, I'll come and visit the Centurion. But let's continue to read. So this just gives you some insight on the character of the Centurion. So he, had an aspect of righteousness to him. Let's continue.
Then the Messiah went with them. And when he was now not far from the house, the centurion sent friends to him, saying unto him, Master, trouble not thyself, for I am not worthy that thou shouldest enter under my roof.
All right, so this is powerful. So the centurion said, he understood I had an understanding on who Yahweh was. He's like, look, don't trouble yourself to come here. I'm not even worthy for you to come under my. Again, the things that he was doing in Israel, the miracles that he was performing, he knew that this man was from, higher power. He was the Messiah that the Jews was talking about. And he could recognize that. And he's like, look, man, I'm not even worthy. Similar to what, John the Baptist said about Yahushua baptizing him. Look, I'm not even worthy to tie you. But he said, no, do it according to right. So we have a similar thing taking place here. He recognizes the authority and the person of who Yahushua is. We'll continue reading.
Whether neither thought I myself worthy to come unto thee, but say in a word, my servant shall be healed.
Okay, so very powerful. So here, let's backtrack a little bit. According to the framework of faith, his hope was that, Abba Yahweh, by way of Yahushua, would heal his servant. Right? He didn't have the evidence as of yet, but that's what his hope was. So, him being in the position he was, he's like, look, just speak the word, and I know that my servant will be healed. Let's continue in verse 8.
For I also am a man set under authority, having under me soldiers. And I say unto one, go, and he goeth. And to another, come, and he cometh. And to my servant, do this, and he doeth. When the Messiah heard these things, he marveled at him, and turned him about, and said unto the people that follow him, I say unto you, I have not found so great faith, no, not in Israel. And they that were sent, returning to the house, found the servant whole that had been sick.
All right, so here he has the evidence that he was hoping for. And now his hope has matured into faith. Because when he got back to the house, his servant, who was fatally sick in the beginning, probably got to the house and the servant was probably cleaning stuff, might have been cooking, whatever, that person was made whole now, and that matured into faith. So we want to look at verse 9. He said, I have not found so great a faith, no, not in Israel. And so when we look at that, the type of faith that the centurion had was, as chief priest pointed out, Yahushua was performing miracles all throughout. And, Israel had the evidence. They were seeing the miracles that Yahushua was performing. But out of all that Yahushua was doing, all that he was performing, they still looked at situations carnally. They didn't, some of them were like, well, can you do it again? You look at the Pharisees and Sadducees, they was like, show us another sign, show us another miracle. Then you had a group over here, they was like, oh man, that's just Joseph's son. But they weren't seeing him as the Messiah, right? Or there was some, there was a struggle there for a lot of them, an impediment. Whereas in this point here, with the centurion, he knew about the works of Yahweh. He saw it, and he saw who he was. He's like, I'm not worthy to come in my house. The type of reverence that he had for the Messiah at that time. Now, this won't always remain this way. After the covenant was consecrated, the comforter was sent, we came out of that. But at this point here, the centurion wasn't looking at it carnal. That's why he says, so great faith have I not seen in all of Israel by way of this Roman centurion. So again, the Roman centurion that had the hope, the earnest expectation that his servant would be healed by Yahushua. And so Yahushua came, healed his servant by with a word. The substance was, when he got home, he saw the servant doing what he normally does, fully well and healed. And so he had, certified faith from Abba Yahweh. Again, he had that special gift that we talk about. that we've been talking about for a few days. So with that being said, that is the faith of the nations. We use those two examples, Rahab, Centurion, to show that this faith isn't just relegated to Israel. Again, this is the nations are saved. The nations have an important place in this process of salvation. I'll be honest, I don't want anyone to perish. That all will come to repentance, right? We know that won't happen with everybody, but there are going to be nations, well, throughout the whole world that's going to be serving Israel, that they're going to bring in their tithes and their wares so that we can worship God. So with that being said, that concludes my portion on faith with the nations. We're going to open up the floor for Q&A. Those that have
Priest, might I add something?
priest. Priest.
All right. It's just that throughout the Bible we see a particular trend. We see in order for the nations to receive their faith, the Heavenly Father always provides faith to Israel, and by Israel receiving that faith, the nations see and they come to the Heavenly Father through Israel. Just when he took them out of Egypt, he said, Israel is my firstborn son, and he began to do works through Israel, which when the other nations saw, they came and they were saved. Likewise, when Yahushua came, he trained them, raised up a new priesthood, they saw the power and came again. When you read Revelation, you see the same events playing out again. Israel raised up 144,000, the nations see, and they come unto the Heavenly Father through Israel again. So I just wanted to put forth that the faith that the nations receive is by the power of the Heavenly Father working through his chosen people, his firstborn son. And that is all I wanted to add.
All praises. And that's a huge point. A lot of people are looking at that scripture and they see, and try to put the nations above Israel, and that's not what that's. So yeah, that was an excellent point.
Looks like we got a question online from Sheba. My question is, with salvation for the nations coming through Israel, is this predicated on the faith they demonstrate to Israel, meaning their service unto the Most High by way of Hebrew?
And I think that apprentice priest Hezekiah, he just answered. Yeah, so they cleave to us by way of what we're doing, and they get faith out of that. So yeah, it's all predicated upon Israel. So yeah, that. Yeah.
Looks like that's the only question.
All right, we got one in the audience. Hold on. AP Hezekiah want to add on to that question.
We can call it faith by relation. Why? Because with all the nations coming through Israel, there's no faith. We'll have what we commonly know as Christianity. We'll have Islam. We'll have everything else, but just not this truth that going to really grant us salvation. So it's by that relation to Israel that the nations will receive their faith. It can have no other way. And that's all I wanted to add.
All right.
Looks like that's all the questions online.
All right. Well, again, thank you for joining us today with this class. As we've been saying in these classes, in the previous classes, let's begin asking how for faith. That special gift, and again, this gift don't come by any other way. How it has to provide that proof and evidence that he exists, and we can't fake it to make it. But with that being said, Shabbat Shalom, or Shalom. So you're doing it on Shabbat.
Shalom.
Shalom.